2 weeks after I met my copy on the doorstep, I tried to go back to normal life. But normal life didn't exist anymore. I woke up every morning and stared at the mirror, trying to figure out which one of us was real. I stopped trusting my own memories. And just when I thought things couldn't get any stranger, I got a call from a collector in Vermont. He said he'd found a box of old 8mm film reels from the 1970s in the attic of an abandoned house. He wanted me to see them. He said something that made my blood run cold. "There's a town on these films, detective. A town that doesn't appear on any map." I should have hung up right then. But I didn't. And that was my first mistake. I drove to his place 2 days later. He was sitting in a room stacked with old projectors and boxes of reels. He loaded the first film. On the screen, a small but prosperous town appeared. Children played on swings in the park. Women in 1970s dresses walked out of shops. Cars cruised slowly down the main street. Everything looked normal, perfect, almost too perfect. I asked him where this town was. He just shrugged and pointed at a stack of old maps from that era. On every single one, where the town should have been, there was nothing but dense forest. Swamps, no roads, no buildings, no records in any tax registry. The town seemed to exist in another reality. I felt the silence creeping into the room, and I knew with absolute certainty that I was looking at something I wasn't supposed to see. But the worst part? The man on the film was watching me back. We watched every reel. Each one showed the same town, the same main street, the same people. But with each new film, I noticed more and more details. In the background, at the edge of every frame, there was always the same figure. A man in a dark coat. He never moved. He just stood there, staring straight into the camera. On every reel, in every shot, like he knew he was being filmed. I zoomed in on his face. It was blurred, but not from the film grain. It was deliberately smudged, like someone had erased his features. I asked the collector if he knew who it was. He went pale. He said he'd found something else in that same box. An old newspaper clipping. The town's name was crossed out with black ink. But underneath, someone had written in handwriting, "They took it. Everyone. Everything." The town vanished overnight. Those who stayed don't remember it ever existed. I'm the only one who remembers. I'm the only one left. I turned the clipping over. There was an address. A name. William Harper. The same man in the dark coat. My hands were shaking. I knew I had to find him, but I had no idea that finding him would lead me straight back into the silence. I started searching for William Harper. No birth records. No death certificates. No tax records. Nothing. He existed only on those films, and nowhere else. I decided to drive to the location where the town should have been. I packed my GPS, old maps, the reels, and a camera. When I arrived, there was nothing but forest. Dense, ancient, untouched. No traces of roads. No foundations. But when I stepped out of the car, I felt something wrong. The silence. Not the usual forest quiet. Absolute. Even the wind had stopped. Even the birds were mute. I remembered Derek's journal entry. "The silence isn't emptiness. It's alive." I pulled out my camera and started filming. I wanted to document this place. But when I looked at the camera's screen, I saw something my eyes couldn't see. Between the trees, outlines appeared. Buildings, streets, cars. The town was there. It just existed in another dimension, and the camera could see it. I took a few steps forward, and then I heard a voice. From nowhere, it said, "You see us, detective. You see what others can't. Do you want to know what happened?" I spun around. No one. But the voice continued, "We were a town. We were people. Then the man in the dark coat came. He offered us a deal. Eternal life in exchange for forgetting our names. We agreed. We thought we'd get immortality. But he took everything. He erased us from reality. We became shadows. We became the silence." I dropped to my knees. I understood. This was the same thing that happened to Derek, to Nathan, to the daughter, but on the scale of an entire town. And the truth was far worse than I'd ever imagined. I fell to my knees. The realization hit me like a physical blow. The silence wasn't just an entity. It was the collective consciousness of everyone who'd taken that deal. Everyone who gave up their names. Everyone who became nothing. And now it was looking for more. It wanted to expand. It wanted to consume the whole world. But it needed a conduit. Someone who could see. Someone who could remember. I realized that was me. I was the conduit. Because I'd seen the town. Because I remembered it. And because I was now part of the silence myself. I stumbled back to my car, desperate to escape. But when I got inside, I noticed something. On the passenger seat, the box of reels. I hadn't brought it with me. It was just sitting there, waiting. I opened it. Inside was a new reel, one I'd never seen before. I loaded it into the projector when I got home. It showed the same town, but now it was empty. No people, no cars, no life, just streets, buildings, and silence. And then the camera panned back to the forest. And there, standing among the trees, was the man in the dark coat. He raised his hand and waved at me. He smiled, and then he spoke directly to me through the decades-old film. "Thank you for coming. Now you're one of us. You remember, and memory is the only thing that keeps us real. As long as you remember, we exist. We will always exist." I sat in the darkness, my mind racing. I knew I could never tell anyone what I'd seen, because if I told, the silence would spread. It would infect others. It would make them part of itself. I closed the box. I hid it in the attic. But I know it's there, waiting. And I know that one day someone will find it again. And when they do, the silence will return. It always returns.